Okay, so welcome everybody. Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the abridged code of Jewish law. We are doing chapter 30. Right, so it's the laws of Lashon Hara and telling tales and vengeance and bearing a grudge, all these wonderful things. So just to sum up, we pretty much finished the Lashon Hara part yesterday. So we said there's two issues. One issue is Rechilus. Rechilus is essentially running around and just gossiping. It's not necessarily negative. It's true. But it's just for the sake of having something to say. So that's a problem. Rechilus is also telling people, you know what Sakenschat said about you, and Rechilus we see can lead to deaths. Right? But we mentioned the story in Tanakh where someone went and told just stories about how Shaul had that a place had helped David when he was running away from Shaul, and he wasn't trying to get in trouble. He just wanted to be a know-it-all and be the master of information. And ended up caused this entire city of Kahanim to be executed. So it's a terrible thing. Then we said included in Rechilus is Lashon Hara. This is when the person says something negative. It's also true, but it's negative. And negative can be about what the person did, it can be about their ancestry, it can be about their past, anything negative. And that's a subcategory of Rechilus. We did mention some exceptions. I mentioned exceptions. Some exceptions. Yes, Mordechai.
Yeah, the example we had regarding Rechila is about like if somebody is looking for a fire and somebody else says you should go to the home of so and so because they're always cooking. It reminds me, decades ago, as Crown Heights Jewish Community Council election, there was somebody who put out an assessment sheet regarding the candidates, and regarding one of the candidates, he wrote, he can really pack a refrigerator.
Hey, well, I guess that's that kind of idea. All right, so welcome to those who just joined us. Doing a brief recap of last week. I can empty a refrigerator, but that's another story. But so we have uh we gave you exceptions to Lashon Hara, right? So exception was if it's to Ellis, there's some benefit out of it. So let's say for an example, we just give simple examples. You have a certain tradesperson, and you know that person from your experience has sticky fingers, and you warn someone who's using that person. Just again, you don't have to overdo it. You don't have to call him names and different things. Just to warn them, just not to leave things lying around. Um, so this is an example. I must also just mention, even then you have to be a little bit careful. There was a school I once worked in. An expensive piece of equipment from the office disappeared, and we'll say all blame went on the handyman. Whoever went in had turned off the cameras, uh, wiped the memory on the computer that had was recording from the cameras. It was a real inside job. There's no question about it. So all suspicions was on the handyman, and this led to essentially the handyman losing his position. There were some other circumstantial issues, but the combination led to it. It ended up much later. When I say much later, I'm going to say about a month later. The piece of equipment was returned. It was taken by a former teacher in the school who essentially had a nervous breakdown. And as a part of the situation, they came in and they took it. And when they covered a little bit, they realized that was, so uh, when you tell someone something, you either need to tell them that you think, that it's just even when it's to Ellis, you need to say that it's circumstantial, you don't know. Or if it's something you really do know for a fact, you have to make sure you know for a fact. It's if you say something's a fact, you have to really know it is a fact. So that was Lashon Hara. Okay. We said there were also some Avak Lashon Hara, right? It was literally the dust of Lashon Hara. For example, saying something positive about someone in front of his enemies, which is going to cause those people to say, "Oh yeah, you think he's good? Well, or when people they make it seem like they're saying something innocent, etc. So that was Lashon Hara. That was the slander and Lashon Hara in a nutshell. So Sif Zayin number 7. So paragraph 7. Now we're going to speak about Nakama. Now Nakama, we're going to translate as revenge. It's not exactly revenge in English, but it's the only word that matches up. Now we have to understand what is revenge and what's not revenge, just to be able to. So we are going to give some examples in the halacha, but I just want to just give a simple example. Let's say someone's being attacked, God forbid, and they fight back in self-defense. That's not revenge, right? That is not revenge. That is protecting themselves. Likewise, even if they got hit once and they're not being hit again, it's not like an attack, but the bully will probably hit them again tomorrow and possibly the next day. Again, I'm using simple examples. It doesn't have to be hitting. It can be a lot of things, as we'll explain. And so the victim, even when they're not under threat at this moment, but they go and knock the guy out to protect themselves from the future, that's also not revenge. That's protecting themselves. Now, it could be there was other ways to deal with it, and it didn't require knocking him out. I'm just using just a simplistic example. Revenge is someone hit him Tuesday. He's on no risk of ever being hit again. And just to make himself feel better, he goes and hits the other guy. I want to get him back. I want him to have a sore jaw like I had a sore jaw. Right? That's the revenge that's inappropriate. Killing terrorists is not revenge. I mean, you might call it revenge, but it's not revenge in this situation. First of all, we're more liberal on to what extent we can have revenge when people aren't Jewish. Now, it's not that we're racist against non-Jews, God forbid. It's that we're stricter amongst ourselves. In other words, we're meant to feel that every Jew is our family member. And amongst family, you don't have to be so particular about your honor and various things. You can let things slide in family a little bit. So we have greater restrictions on what we can do amongst other Jews. But when it comes to terrorists, generally speaking, when a terrorist strike once, there's a very good chance they're going to strike again. God forbid. And revenge is not necessarily revenge. Oh, sorry, 1 second, David. But even if that particular terrorist will not strike again, the fact that you are showing that anyone who strikes is dealt with, this will cause other people to think twice and possibly not commit an act of terrorism. So all of this, that's not revenge. It has a purpose. Revenge is just to make me feel better. I'm angry. I want to take it out on the guy. Anything that has a purpose, even though we may call it revenge in English as well, just for lack of a better word, but that's not the issue that we're speaking about here. The issue we're speaking about here is a person, there's no purpose other than to make himself feel better. Yes, David, sorry to keep you waiting.
There's a difference between revenge and avenge.
Yes, okay. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, very good. So Zion number 7. So chapters joined us, chapter 30. Simon Lamed, Sif Zion number 7. Hanoi came mechaveiroi, someone who takes revenge against a fellow Jew. And again, as I said, we're stricter amongst Jews because we're meant to feel that every Jew is our family. So I'll give an example. Nothing to do with here, nothing to do with revenge, but just an example of this concept. Lending money with interest. Right? So we're forbidden to lend money to interest to a Jew. And we are allowed, not only allowed, we're encouraged to lend with interest to a non-Jew. Now it's not a racism issue. It's simple. To your brother, you don't charge interest. At least you hope not, right? I'm sure there is that guy who, even to his twin brother, to his own parents, would want to try to show them make a buck, God forbid. But generally speaking, to family, you lend money as a out of love. It's family. When it's someone else, okay, I'm happy to lend you money, but I need to have a return on my investment. Need to earn something as well. So we're meant to feel that every Jew is really our family, and therefore we can't lend with interest to a Jew. It's not that we have anything against lending with interest. The Torah understands. Money is a resource to make money out, to earn from, and there's no concept. See, Christianity sort of when they took this concept, they distorted it. They made like interest as something evil, and only the heathens, whatever. No, we look at it that the interest in of itself is a perfectly acceptable form of earning capital, using capital to make money, and there's 100% no problem. Just amongst our family, our Jews, our extended family, we have to try and be more generous. So this is similar over here. So here we're speaking about the type of thing that would be considered a revenge amongst Jews. So someone who takes revenge, he's oiva b'loitase. He transgressed a negative prohibition. Shneimah says, Loi sikoim. Do not take revenge. Right? Pretty straightforward. So the Ketzad he hanakima. Now, what's called revenge? Now, simple examples I gave in the introduction. Where someone punched someone in the nose, and there's no danger of it ever happening again, but he's just angry and he wants to get him back. And it's nothing to do with self-defense. It's nothing to protect himself in the future. He just wants the other guy to have a sore nose too, to teach it, because he wants to make himself feel better, and he punches him in the nose. So that's revenge. But here we're going to have a much more subtle example. Amal chaveiroi. Someone says, one Jew says to another Jew, says, Shaleni kadumach. Can you lend me your shovel? Amaloi, he says back to him, Eini mashilach. No, I'm not going to lend it to you. He has one. He's not using it. Now, obviously, there's times someone says, can I borrow something? And you're using it right now. So there's nothing wrong with saying, I'm sorry, I need it right now. Right? Or there could be other reasons. But over here, no reason, no legitimate reason. The guy's just stingy. So now the next day, again, doesn't have to be the next day, but the next day in our example, the guy who refused to lend wants to borrow something from the fellow who refused to lend to. So on Sunday, Mr. A asks Mr. B, can I borrow your shovel? Mr. B says no. Comes Tuesday, Mr. B comes to Mr. A, the reverse situation, says, can I borrow something from you? Samuel Chaveira says to him, he says, Hashileni Kaduma, can I borrow your shovel? So Amaloi, so he says back to him, Aini mashilcha k'mash'atalo heshaltani kashalta mimcha. I'm not going to lend to you because you didn't lend to me when I asked you for yours. This is called revenge. And this is what transgresses. I'm not lending you something because you didn't lend me something. Now, like I said, there are obviously many legitimate reasons why you wouldn't lend something to someone. You can have a certain person who's not careful with other people's property. And last time you lent it to him, he broke it. It's not revenge by not lending to him again. It's just being smart. The guy doesn't take care of stuff. He abused it, doesn't treat it properly. Okay, you're using it right now. There can be a lot of reasons why you don't lend. But here we're talking about the first person did not have a valid reason, and the second person could have lent. There was no reason not to, but just purely, since you didn't lend me, I'm not lending you. That's nakama. That's revenge. Now, so what should happen instead? When the person comes to borrow, the person who wouldn't lend, now he wants to borrow. You should give it to him wholeheartedly. And don't pay him back, so to speak, the way he paid you. You know, don't treat him the way he treated you. Be better than him. It's better for a person. What he should do is he should have his midas, his character traits. He should let it go. In other words, he should let it go. Just mavinim hakol divrei hevavavai, because a person that understands how the world works realizes that all of this is futile. And it's really not. It's not worth taking revenge for this. Right? Here you have a chance. Okay, so that guy, he messed up on his mitzvah to lend something, and he obviously needs to work on his self-development, his personal development, because he doesn't know how to share. He's got problems. But you don't need to have that problem too. To the spiritual damage and self-development damage that it does to treat him back negatively is not worth the cost. Right? While you overcoming, because it's human nature to feel hard done by, and human nature you don't want to give. To overcome that human nature, that is self-development, that is improving, refining oneself. This so what it cost you, the profit was much more. And similarly, King David, blessed memory, said the following about this idea. If I have repaid my friends with evil, I who released my unprovoked adversary. Right? So what happened was he was pursued for no reason. He let the person go. He showed that he was bigger. Obviously, letting the person go if you know he's gonna stab you in the back tomorrow is not the way to go, you know. But in this case, he resolved it. He was able to show that he was above various things. Okay, so test number 8. If you really want to take revenge against your enemy, right? This person, he's really got under your skin. And you really want to get him back. That's how you're feeling right now. Now, just by the way, I just want to mention, there's nothing wrong with having feelings. Okay, if we just leave this mitzvah for a moment, let's talk about in general. You know, we have, for example, a mitzvah Havas Yisrael. Now, we would all love to be on the spiritual level, that no matter what any Jew in the world does, we would still feel incredible love to them. And we'd all love to be in a level that everyone else should be in the level that they treat us in a way that's just going to arouse our love. But let's call a spade a spade. We're all human. And some people are obnoxious. And, well, their behavior is obnoxious. Every person, every Jew is deep down inside is a nefesh elokis, is a godly soul, a piece of God, is literally a piece of God from above. They're beautiful and they're special. But sometimes it's more hidden in certain individuals, right? And the behavior can be quite obnoxious, and they get under your skin. And the way, if we would allow ourselves to be animalistic, the way we would behave towards that person may not be very nice. Now, you're allowed to have those emotions. Emotions, it's part of being human. The question is, what happens with your emotion? What happens next? So, as a human, we have the capability, even though this person gets under my skin, I can smile, I can say good morning, and keep walking. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to hang out with there are certain people who you need to separate out of your life. The negative energy that bring down everyone around them, right? And being with them is damaging to yourself. You don't have to sit and spend all day with them, but you can make yourself be civil and move on in a way that doesn't show any animosity, even though that's how you're feeling inside. And that's not fake. Fake is if you smile to the guy while you're playing stab them in the back, God forbid. That's not nice. But if you realize this is the correct behavior. Okay, I'm having a certain emotion, but nevertheless, my mind tells me that playing out on my emotion is not appropriate. So we move on. That's not called being fake. That's actually called being genuine. Pandering to every emotion. See, the Yitzchok tries to come and say, hypocrite, you're being two-faced. It's not true. When a person does what they know to be right, even though they have an emotion a certain way, we all know every one of us has a different Yetzer Hara. Every one of us is born with tendencies towards certain negative things. Hopefully, they're more refined, not so extreme. But whatever level we're on a certain refined level, even on a refined level, never mind if it's on a very literal level, every one of us has different intent. And what Yetzer Hara gets me might not be what gets you, and vice versa. Every one of us has different, but we all have an area where we're drawn after something that's not so positive. It doesn't mean, oh, well, that's my nature. It's who I am, so I just do it. No. We have to say, I have to rise above my nature. So that's what we need to do over here. So you have this person, or number 8, the person, he wants to get revenge on this guy. He can't stand him, and he wants to get him back. What should he do? He should acquire more positive qualities, and he should go in the straight, honest path. And in a roundabout way, actually, you end up taking revenge on your enemy because it's going to distress him that you have such good qualities. And he'll be grieved over your good reputation. The guy wants to get you. He wants to see you get stirred up. He wants to make you upset. That's why he's annoying you. I mean, not you, God forbid. Don't want anyone here to have anyone like that. But that a person, that's why they're doing it. And instead, the person, thank you very much, walks off, makes himself a cup of coffee, whatever happens to be, is civil and essentially ignores the situation.
Isn't that what Trump just did when he said my revenge will be excellence, or whatever term he used?
Right? Could be. I didn't hear the exact quote, but that would be an example, right? So here we have, a situation where, and the person who's trying to get a reaction, is trying to upset the person, it actually, they get more annoyed when they can't get the desired reaction out of someone. And then everyone sees, they see who's a troublemaker, and they see who's a refined and higher quality individual. And but if you do their vile deeds, you stoop to their level. Your enemy rejoices over your disgrace and your shame. And it's actually he took revenge against you. He got what he wanted. He's happy. But when we can rise above the situation, we can rise above. Now, again, as I said in the introduction, we're not talking about when a person needs to do something to protect himself. Self-defense. And self-defense isn't always literal. Physical harm that can be protect oneself from harm. There are certain people that, a person has to cut out of their life, and they have to tell them, I'm not having anything to do with you. Again, does have to in a vengeful way. You don't have to start calling them names and scream at them and be nasty. The person can be calm and rational and say, I really don't want to speak to you anymore. I can't have anything to do with it. There are times one has to protect himself. So a lot of these things depends on motivation. The same way we spoke about Lashon Hara, someone is genuinely trying to improve the situation, and they have to say what they need to say to improve the situation. So that's not Lashon Hara. Person can pretend they're just trying to improve the situation, and really they've just found a way to say nasty things without looking bad. Well, Hashem knows. So the same over here. There are times where we need to do or say certain things. That's to protect our souls and or others. But just to get the guy back, that's revenge. Okay, so now we're going to speak about bearing a grudge. Now, the difference between bearing a grudge and revenge is an action. Now, you can have a guy that even though he doesn't take revenge, he can still hold a grudge inside. And again, that's a prohibition because it's against another Jew. And we're meant to feel like we're family. You can't hold a grudge against family.
Well, that's, Rebbe, isn't that the whole essence of being two-faced? You can hate him if you outrightly hate him. But if you're hiding it and you're really bearing the grudge, but you're not showing it, that's where you start getting into the loisase of don't be insincere.
Right. So that's true. But as we said before, sometimes you really can't stand the guy, but you're just forcing yourself to be civil because that's the appropriate thing to do. That's right. So that's not two-faced.
Show
But
him
here
whatever, but
yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah, but to differentiate a little bit, but the guy who inside he wants to get him, That's this idea, and sometimes he doesn't even actually have to get him. So we're going to give an example over here. Number 9, whoever bears a grudge against another Jew, he also transgresses a negative prohibition. As it says in the Torah, don't bear a grudge against the children of your people. So Keitzad Hinatira, what's called bearing a grudge? What does that mean? So we're going to give a subtle example so we can imagine everything worse. Reuven Shamal Shimon. So we're back to the case of what we had last time. So when it came to revenge, Mr. A tried to borrow from Mr. B. Mr. B said no. Later on, Mr. B came to Mr. A and he asked to borrow. And Mr. A says, no, the same way you didn't lend to me, I'm not lending to you. Right? That was revenge. Here it's going to be slightly different. What happens? Shalani Dava Ploni Shimon. So Mr. A goes Mr. B and he says, can I borrow such and such? He says, no. The Yomim Bar Shimon Lisho Eze Chafetz Meruvain. And now, sometime later, the same situation. Mr. B comes to Mr. A and says, can I borrow something from you? And he doesn't say no. Bamlo Ruven, what does he say? Says, sure, I'll lend it to you, because I'm not like you, who doesn't lend things. I don't act the way that you act. So although he's lent it, he's certainly he's dug his, he's kicked the guy when he's down. Isaac is there, someone who does something like this. He has transgressed holding a grudge. So what's the solution then? What you have to do is you have to erase it from your heart and don't remember it at all. And this is the proper frame of mind that the settlement of the earth, all right, in other words, for society to function, and which it can be economic, proper transactions between each other, and things can run well and it can be maintained. You just have to let something go. Now, again, a person doesn't have to be a doormat. A person doesn't have to allow themselves to be stepped on and taken advantage of. And as we said, there's a time when one wants to protect himself. But here we're not talking about the person feels that he needs to protect himself. It's the only reason he's doing it is to say, haha, I'm lending to you because I'm not like you. So he's like, he has this animosity. That's and it's not easy. Right? It's not easy. The person is being wronged. A person feels hurt. Person feels hurt. I'm sure we, unfortunately, every one of us has probably had an experience, and halavai, we wish it was only one experience where someone has perhaps not treated us the way that they should. God forbid, and it hurts. It hurts, and it's hard to let that go. But what we need to try and do is, when it comes to another Jew, we need to, this is halacha class, but just to speak about some of the things it says in Tanya, just on this idea. So there's, first of all, one interesting comment, right? So in Tanya, they quote from a sages that says that we should try and bring the creations closer to Hashem, bring creations closer. We should get close to the creations. So it explains why the term creation, right? In other words, we're speaking about a person who has no redeeming character. There's no redeeming point to them at all, other than the fact they're a creation of Hashem. Other than that, there's not one nice thing you can say about the guy. Even that person, you have to try and bring them close with cords of love. So I don't know about you, but there's been plenty of people in my life who perhaps were not as didn't treat me the way that I would appreciate to be treated, and perhaps got under my skin. But if I'm honest with myself, they all had more advantages to them. They all had more positive qualities than just being creation. So if we can focus on the positive, look, no one's perfect. We're not perfect either. And we all have our faults. And if we're looking for faults are not hard to find. But when we look at the positive qualities in a person, it can give us a positive outlook. That's number one. And number two, also, Hung explains that we should develop Rahmanas. Rahmanas, most people who deliberately go out of their way to treat people badly, they have problems. I mean, why do they have the need to put others down or to do different things? They have issues. And instead of feeling a feeling of hate or anger, really the appropriate feeling towards them is Rahmanis, is like you feel bad for the guy. I mean, you genuinely feel bad, and Rahmanis develops a certain level of love. I mean, again, I'm not talking about now we have to start judging people. Oh, he said this to me, he's got it. Something wrong with him. I don't mean it like that. But it's if you think about the most obnoxious people, usually they have serious issues or they've got problems in their life. And that doesn't excuse their behavior. It doesn't give them a license to behave poorly. But instead of feeling, and you can still take actions to protect yourself and may still need to cut them out of your life. But instead of feeling a hatred or an anger, our emotion towards them can be pity, to feel bad for them. And you can feel bad for someone and for your own emotional safety, never mind physical safety, keep a distance, have nothing to do with them, but you can still love them. It's it's a fine line perhaps, but that's how we've got to try and feel about other Jews. All right, any questions on that before we move on? Okay, so chapter 31, a little more positive. Shekal kavanas ha'adam yeh l'shem shemayim. All a person's intentions, I mean, literal translation for the sake of a heaven, but in other words, what does Hashem want me to do right now? So, not when I taught little children, they don't have the maturity. When I teach middle school or high school, often teachers, the first day of school, they put all these rules on the board, or they have a whole activity with the class that's made the class rules. I always tell them there's one rule in my class: to do what Hashem wants me to do. Right? Then when someone comes later on, someone makes a comment to or about someone else, you can ask the question, is that what Hashem wants you to do right now? Do you think? No? Okay, so good. Over. Or someone doesn't want to do something they should be doing. Again, what do you think Hashem wants you to do right now? Because really that should be the guideline. It shouldn't be because you have a teacher who can potentially give a reward or a punishment or something. That shouldn't be your motivation to do things. The motivation to do the right thing or not to do something is the right thing should be because that's what Hashem wants, and that's how we should really be educating children. I'm not sure that's really going to work in preschool, but at a certain age, that's how we go, and that's how we should start developing our own thinking. It's not the question: is it technically allowed or is it technically not allowed? You can have many things that are technically allowed, but under this circumstance, it's not what Hashem really would want me to do. So let's have a look at it. Aleph, number 1. Amar Rabbeinu Zichron Livracha. Our sages of blessed memory said, they taught, Ezel Parsha Katana Gogufi Tolimbo. Which short section of the Torah, or which phrase in the Torah, has all the principles of the Torah hanging in it, right? It sums up everything, right? So they said, B'chol darachecha da'ehu. In all your ways, acknowledge / know God. Acknowledge / know God. Right? In other words, Parish, what does this mean? Even in your ways, your things, your personal needs, which you're doing for the needs of your body, acknowledge Hashem and do those things for Hashem's sake. Good going, for an example, achila, eating. Right? A person can eat, they can feel hungry, and they can recognize if I'm feeling hungry, it means my body needs energy, and I need energy to serve Hashem. So I'm going to eat now in order to serve Hashem. And you make a bracha with the intention to thank Hashem. And while eating, you have in mind to eat to serve Hashem. And then afterwards, you make a bracha. Vashtia, drinking, the same thing. Valicha, and he's walking. Vashiva is sitting. Vashchiva, he's lying down. Vakim is getting up. Vatashmish, he's marital relations. Vashicha, he's talking. All the needs of his body. They can all be for the sake of serving Hashem. Or in order to do something that's going to help you serve Hashem. So a person can do this in a way that it's going to help him connect to Hashem, or he can do it like an animal. That's really the person can eat just like an animal. And Hashem gave us a higher sense of morality and intellect that we can turn something as mundane as eating or sleeping, marital relations, various things, into something holy. Or a person can just do it just to fulfill their desires, their physical desires. They can be an animal. And probably most of us are somewhere in between. I mean, we're working on it. It's a work in progress. But that's the goal, and we're gonna keep working on it. And even when a person makes a resolution, okay, before I eat, I'm gonna say, I'm eating now in order to serve Hashem. Sometimes they forget, right? But don't let, because they forgot once or twice, the Yetzer Hara say, "Oh, you're useless, give up." No, okay. Next time, I'm gonna get it next time. But ideally, everything we do should be for the right reasons. And even mitzvahs, sometimes some people get so bogged down in the technicalities of mitzvah, which person needs to do the mitzvah properly, so we need to know the technicalities. But sometimes there are people who get so bogged down in the technicalities they forget about Hashem. It's very important. So base number 2, how do you eat and drink for the sake of God? How do we do that? Needless to say, the person doesn't eat or drink things that are not kosher, that you're not allowed to have. But even if a person is eating things to best heksha, if he's thirsty and hungry, and he's eating just to satisfy his desire, and this is not praiseworthy. But he should have the intention that when he eats and drinks, or she eats and drinks, that they're doing this in order to have strength, to have energy to serve the Creator. Therefore, a person shouldn't eat everything that they desire, like a dog or a donkey, an animal. Just it's there. Let's eat. Rather, a person should eat things that are good for him, good for his health, that's gonna improve him, gonna give him energy. Okay, it doesn't mean a person can't have a treat once in a while. And of course, when it comes to a Sudas mitzvah, honoring Shabbos with nice foods, or other mitzvahs, bris or chasna, or wedding, the various things. Obviously, we honor the mitzvah by having nice things, but a person doesn't need ice cream every single day. No. And there are men of action, right? People who really try to take the game to the next level. Before they eat, they say, I'm about to eat and drink in order to be healthy and strong, to serve the Creator, blessed is his name. And there's a famous story. The Baal Shem Tov once heard a baskol, heard a heavenly voice, and it said that such and such eats in order to serve Hashem totally, 100% lishma, for the sake. So he imagined in his mind this person, eats the barest minimum, only what they need to live. But he travels to the place and he's trying to find the tzaddik. And he's asking, does anyone know where the tzaddik just live? And they said, there's no tzaddik by that. Anyway, they ended up, he finds this person who literally is stuffing his face the entire day. And on the surface, he's a total glutton, just shoving more and more food in. And there doesn't appear to be any refinement in how he's eating, and he's just in shock. So he asked the fellow, says, tell me, what do you eat so much? So he explains like this. He said that he used to be a wagon driver. One time he was transporting some other Jewish people, and they were attacked by bandits. And he wanted to protect the other people. And he started to fight the bandits, and he felt himself being overpowered. They were starting to get on top of him. So he called out to Hashem and says, Hashem, if you make a miracle for me this time, that I can fight off these bandits, I promise you, I won't rely on miracles in the future. I'll eat a lot. I'll get strong. So I'll be able to fight them off myself next time, and I won't have to have a miracle. And he was able, he fought them off, and they ran away, and that's what happened. So he said, so now I'm eating, so now I'm big, I'm strong, and the next time, and I'll be able to protect people. And Hashem doesn't have to change nature for me. So this person, although on the surface it looked like he was just being a glutton, and he was sincere. We can all give speeches like that. Doesn't mean we mean it. This person 100% meant it. And all the eating was a service Hashem. Again, this, like I said, this doesn't mean a person has to only have bread and water. A person that has bread and water, for most people, that's not enough nutrients. They're not going to be healthy. Right? Person needs to eat and drink what they need to be healthy. They need all the well-balanced diet. They need various things. Different people are different. Some people have allergies to certain things. Whatever it is, a person needs a broad, varied diet, and they need everything they need. Okay, so that's eating and drinking. And even if we say before we eat and drink, I'm eating this in order to serve Hashem, and we're not 100% sincere yet, we know really I'm eating because I'm hungry. I'm just giving the speech. But like we said, that's not called being hypocritical, because that's the level you want to be on. It's like the person, he wants to lift a certain amount of weights. So he has a goal. But right now he's doing 10% of that. Now, the fact that he's doing exercise 10%, that doesn't make him a hypocrite. What kind of loser are you? Can't lift anything. No, it's a stepping stone. I want to get to this certain level, and I have to go step by step. And right now I'm starting with this small step, doing a small amount, and I'm going to develop basic strength, and then I'm going to add a bit more. So when a person, even if they make this statement and they're not so sincere yet, it's a stepping stone. Okay, a person just stays there and goes, aha, I've done it. Then you're right. That maybe is hypocritical. But if a person realizes, to eat 100% sincerely is a high level, I'm going to work on it. But first, at least I've got to focus on it. So they say, I'm eating in order to have koyach to serve Hashem, to have energy to serve Hashem. Good. And if a person internalizes it enough, it becomes more real. And it may affect also what they eat. The person will be saying it and realizes, okay, now that I said it, in good faith, can I have that second ice cream? No, I can't, So it becomes more real. Yeah.
The Gemara talks about the three Tanoim that were arguing which is the most important pasuk in the Torah. And one of them said, Shema Yisrael. I think Ben Azai said, but Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. And the second one, another one, not Ben Zaymer, said, no, v'yahatel reacha kamoicha. And the third one said, no, es hakeves ha'echad tase baboke, v'es hakeves ha'sheni tase bein ha'arboyim. And they all discussed it amongst themselves, and they all agreed that the third one, that was Ben Zaymer, that his was correct. What's the big thing about it? Every single day, just consistency. Once it's there, you don't give it up for anything. You do it every morning, you do it every afternoon.
Right? And for the right reasons. Right? That's right. So we keep working on something, and even if we're not 100% sincere yet, it's a stepping stone. So acknowledging that you're not there yet, but it's a stepping stone, is not hypocritical. And again, this the Yitzchok always comes with these things. But we gotta. So that's what we need to be eating. So Gimel number 3, Hayeshiva kima v'alicha keitzad, sitting, getting up, walking. How do you do these things for the sake of God? Ach sarach loim, a person needs to say. So sorry. Ein sarach loim, needless to say. Lo yesha meshav leitzim. You don't sit with a bunch of scoffers, people just making fun of everything that's important. So obviously that's not what we're talking about. That you're not allowed to do. That's not being more sincere. Shalamoid b'derech hatoim, and you don't stand in the way of people doing the wrong things. You don't stand with the wrong crowds. Shalech v'atzes v'shoim, and you don't walk over to get advice from wicked people. So we're not talking about any of those. Rather, even if you're sitting in a meeting of honest people and you're standing where there's tzaddikim, there's righteous people, and you're walking, you're taking counsel from very sincere, perfect people. So how can you make it better than that? If a person is just doing this for their own purposes, to satisfy their own desires, to gratify their own ambitions, this is not praiseworthy. I'm not saying it's forbidden, but it's not praiseworthy. But rather, a person should do it for the sake of heaven. So again, if a person, they can hang out with good people. Why? Because they get a good reputation. They're doing it for the reputation. They want people to say, "Oh, you know who I saw him with?" Aha. And then you can have someone who hangs out with good people because he wants to learn from them to be good. Right? It's very different. It's the same action, but totally different motivation. Nevertheless, if a person's doing the right things and it's not for the sake of heaven, he knows he's doing it, it's not the right reasons. Don't stop. Because through doing the right things for the wrong reasons, you'll come to do it for the right reasons. Classic example, studying Torah. There might be someone who studies Torah. Why? He wants people to say, "Oh, look at him, he's learning all day," or "Wow, what a scholar," or he wants to appear educated. It's for the wrong reasons, and that shouldn't be why you do it. But don't stop, because if you learn enough Torah, it's going to have an effect on you. You'll get a certain wisdom, and you'll realize the person will realize the folly of their ways, and they'll start doing things for the right reasons. Likewise, person hangs out in the right company. Yeah, it might be for ulterior motives, but it rubs off on him after a while. Some of the positive character traits of other people rub off on him, and he starts to develop in a positive way. And so doing the right thing, even if it's not for the right reasons, don't stop. Because eventually doing the right thing enough brings you to do it for the right reasons. Yes, Mordechai.
Yeah, isn't there that story with the Baal Shem Tov where he was walking with his followers and came across a simple yid, and the yid said, "Hashem, I love you. How am I going to show my love for you? I'm going to dance for you. I'm going to jump back and forth over this puddle for you. I'm going to throw this coin in the air." That's an example of
Right.
doing things with
Now that
sincerity.
person had 100% sincerity. Okay, they didn't know how to express it yet, but that person 100% sincerity, yeah. So that's actually a very high level in a certain way. So what we're saying here is that I know what the right thing is. I'm just not doing it for the right reasons. I'm not yet sincere. So it's the reverse of that case. But yeah. So the person, but we say no, keep going, keep doing the right thing. Even if you're not doing it for the right reasons, it'll bring you to do it for the right reasons. It's we don't want to say fake it till you make it. It's not quite like that either, because although to a certain extent, if you have a very grumpy person and that's their nature, and they know that Hashem wants us to, when we greet people, greet them with a smile, say good morning, so even though his nature is to go to people or to ignore them, but he forces himself and he smiles and he says good morning, how are you, whatever it is. So even though he's not sincere, when you do it enough, it becomes your second nature, it becomes who you are.
Rabbi
So you,
Bidemil says, "Achitonius miareres es hapnimius."
right?
You have to do the outside, and the action drives the feeling. The feeling never drives the action.
Yeah. So that's how we go. So here we have a situation where we know what we're meant to do. We're just not really sincere yet, but we keep going. Let's squeeze in one more. Dollar number 4. Shchiva Ketzad. How do you lie down? Right? So ein tzarich loimer zman shiach lasu b'Torah mitzvahs in megara b'sheina la'anik atzmai she'eino ro losses came. Needless to say, we're not talking about a situation where you could be involved in Torah or some other mitzvah, and instead you just go to sleep to have a nice nap, not because you're exhausted, but because nice nap, I feel good. Obviously, we're not talking about that you only sleep when you're meant to and different things. Even in a situation where you really exerted yourself and you need, the body must now rest to recoup its energy from the effort you put in. Now, im asalan is gufay, but if a person just does it because I want a good sleep, I'm going to feel better. Einem shubach, that's not praiseworthy. Elias Kavna says Shaina Lain of the gufay menuchel is bris gufay. But a person should have in mind the same thing about the eating. You're hungry. You're legitimately hungry. You need to eat, and you're eating healthy food. Same way you say, but I'm eating in order to have energy to serve Hashem. So the same thing. The body's tired. You need to sleep, and you're going to enjoy the sleep. But a person should start saying to themselves, "I'm going to sleep now in order to regain energy to serve Hashem." And this is so I'm learning in order that my mind should not be distracted by fatigue when I'm learning Torah or doing whatever mitzvah I'm doing. Right? So this enables me to do what I'm meant to do properly. So that's our goal, to try and to do everything we do for the right reasons. And first by starting to say it and then internalizing it till eventually it becomes who we really are. All right. Any questions, thoughts, comments?
Rabbi,
Yeah.
I excuse me. I looked on the internet for the difference between avenge and revenge.
Yep.
So it's so avenge is basically for the purpose of pursuing judgment, pursuing justice, and
Okay.
revenge is for personal retaliation. So a way to remind yourself of which is the which. The avenge starts with achievement of justice and avenge, and revenge means retaliation.
Okay. Thank you. So that's
a way to remember the difference.
right. And as we said, all these things, it's the motivation. So here now we got to check our motivation. Now we're doing it for the right reason.
Right. The revenge is more personal.
Yeah. So thank you for showing that.
You're welcome.
All right. So wish everyone a wonderful week. I think I'm going to see you again this week. I think that's the plan. Not sure exactly when. We've got gonna fill in for someone. So those who are not in that class, wish you a wonderful week and a wonderful Shabbos. And those who we see again in a day or so,
we look forward to
look forward to seeing
you.
you then.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Take care.
Go
Good
to.
day, everybody.
Chodesh Tov. Chodesh Tov, yes.